Hello and welcome to State of the Economy. Today we have as our guest Dr. Narendra Jadhav, who is a nominated member of Rajya Sabha and a former member of Planning Commission, and even more than that, he is an economist, and we are talking to him today as an economist. He has been the chief economist of RBI, worked at the RBI for 31 years, and he is also an educationist. In the Planning Commission, his role was that of aiding in the formation of education policy. But today we've called him to discuss the effects of demonetization on the economy. He has years of experience of researching various aspects of the economy at the RBI, and RBI is at the very center of this. The demonetization, in fact, the decision was recommended by the RBI board. So therefore, we thought the right man to talk to us. Welcome to our show, Dr. Narendra Jadhav.
Good evening.
So please tell us, it's now over a month since the decision to demonetize, and we've had various views coming from policymakers, coming from people who are debating this issue, economists, coming from politicians, coming from people on the ground, people who are standing in the queues. There's been a lot of pain, which the government has admitted, but the government also says that there will be long-term gain. Now, could you just tell us, how do you see the economic effects of demonetization panning out, especially keeping in view its impact on the unorganized sector, the construction workers, farmers, the poor?
Thank you. Venuji, first thing that I want to say is that, the hardships that people are facing in the queues before the banks, they are, my sympathy is with them, and that cannot be denied. However, it's my perception.
You can't call them minor inconvenience.
No, it's a major inconvenience. But again, there are problems about it, but let's not go into that. Yeah. One has to accept what has happened. However, what I want to emphasize is that in media and elsewhere, I see people exaggerating the pain that is caused and systematically underplaying the possible gains which are going to be there in the long run. And by long run, we don't mean very long time. We are talking about in the near future.
After a year or so.
Dr. Manmohan Singh, my mentor and guru, said that he quoted Keynes and said in the Rajya Sabha that in the long run we are all dead. We all know that. But I believe that the effect of this, positive effect of this, is going to be a lot earlier, and it is going to be very substantial as things unfold in future. I would expect the inconveniences that people are facing would be over by end of December, and by 1st April 2017, which is about 4.5 to 5 months away, you will be able to see a positive impact of this.
Okay. Tell me, Mr. Jadhav, you've been at the RBI for so many years. You understand RBI. Now, in the recent monetary policy statement, the RBI governor did not give a time frame for the full replacement of the currency which has been withdrawn.
Right.
By when do you think, given RBI's printing capacity, etc., things would be like really normal, where people could, without any restrictions, go and withdraw their money from the banks? What's your sense? You must be talking to various people, policymakers here.
Of course. My sense is that all the inconveniences would be over in the next few days, if not weeks, by end of December. But normalcy will take little more time because of this.
Normalcy in the sense of unrestricted withdrawal of money.
Right. That will take some time, maybe 2 more months.
Or 3 months.
By 3 months. But in any case, by 1st of April, I think Indian economy will bounce back to its high growth trajectory. What would be the impact? First of all, please note that demonetization is of course a very bold move, a very historic move, but it should not be seen only in isolation. There are 5 different things which are being done which will change the working of the Indian economy forever. Now, what are those 5 things? First is, of course, demonetization. Second one is what they are doing about the income tax amendment that they have, which is nothing but a voluntary disclosure of cash. Third one is the restrictions on gold for future. Fourth one is a huge encouragement to digital mode of payment. And fifth one is GST. These five things are all interrelated, and together all these five things are going to make Indian economy cleaner, healthier, while going back on the high growth trajectory that Indian economy was until recently.
But tell me about, how do you see the implementation so far? The estimates they made and the entire money coming back into the system.
I'm not a spokesperson for the government, so I'm not going to
No, I'm asking you as an expert,
Right,
purely as an economist,
okay.
who has worked in the RBI, who's chief economist of RBI.
Right. First of all,
If you were RBI governor today, how would you have seen it?
Okay. Two things I want to say here. First of all, for a country of a continental size and all kinds of complications, territorial complications, complete preparation was not possible at all. It was not possible at all. So a lot of people say that enough time was not given for preparation. Let me add something here. When they had taken the decision, please note that on one hand, they had to keep the printing press running in overdrive. At the same time, they had to also maintain secrecy. So there were these two conflicting things.
Objectives,
and they had to strike a balance between the two. There was a trade-off. Ideally, everything should be done well prepared, and then the decision would have been announced. But there was a risk of a leakage. And I think that sometime the Honorable Prime Minister Narendra Modi had to take a call and say this much and we are rolling. That must have been the consideration, and those details are also coming out.
Yeah.
That is one. Second, there is this common perception which is reflected in your question also, that the fact that almost all of the money is coming back is seen as a failure of the scheme. Absolutely wrong. This in itself is an achievement. Let me explain how.
No, yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
At least the money is back in the system.
Correct.
But a lot of it got laundered back, right?
No. But you see, first of all, let's understand this. Let's understand this. In India, if you look at India's history of financial development, there have been 3 occasions when there was a quantum jump in terms of financial inclusion. First was Indira Gandhi's nationalization of banks, which converted class banking into mass banking.
Yeah.
That was a big one. After that, Prime Minister Narendra Modi's Jan Dhan Yojana was the second big jump towards financial inclusion. This one becomes the third big jump, a quantum leap into financial inclusion. The fact that the money has come back is not bad because it has not become white. It is good in itself that the money is back in the system. Money which was lying around, money which was hidden.
So you're saying you can't treat it as white. Now there will be investigation to find out the black component.
Correct. And so much money coming into the banking system is going to be very beneficial for future. How? Let's look at it this way. On one hand, higher the incidence of black money, higher is the inflationary pressure. And there is a common sense. When there is a lot of money sloshing around as the black money, people splurge money. So statistically,
So it will be disinflationary.
no, that is one side. Second side is that banks are now flooded with very large amount of cash. What is the combined effect of these two? Inflationary pressures coming down and the cash which has come into the bank, and the banks being flushed with very large amount of cash at a very low cost of borrowing. On an average, the cost of raising funds for bank is about 3%.
So you're saying banks would gain from this?
Not only banks, we are talking about the economy, boss.
Okay.
These two things together, inflationary pressures being abated and banks being flushed with funds, together paves the way for a major interest rate cut in the system, which will benefit the economy immensely.
So you think RBI should have cut interest rates in the last?
I think so, but there is a reason why RBI has not done that.
What is the reason?
I will tell you. There are two reasons. One is the global environment. See, December 14th is the Federal Reserve's announcement of their own monetary policy, and it is widely perceived that they will jack up the interest rates. That would create an outflow from India. That is the perception. That is one. Second, oil prices are ticking up. So there is some pressure on inflation. Remember that from next year,
Because RBI said it also expects food inflation to harden.
it is happening. What is happening is that core inflation is remaining sticky. Remember that our target is 5%. RBI's target for next year is 5% by January 2017. And we are finding it difficult to drag it below that, because already, our ultimate target is 4% to 4%
Plus
the
minus
retail
2, yeah.
inflation plus minus 2%. Now what will happen is this. Why have they not done it? One is the international global developments.
Maybe they want to wait 3 months.
No, there is a very important second thing. RBI has always been cautious, but the present cycle of lowering interest rates started in January 2015. What is so policy rates, when they are lowered, how much lowering of the policy rates that RBI has done from January 2015 to December 2016? 175 basis points.
So they've done a lot, waiting for transmission to happen.
Exactly. Out of this, it's very interesting. Out of this 175 basis point reduction in policy rates, most of it, 170 basis point reduction, has already been passed on to the deposit rates.
Okay.
How much is it passed on by the banking system to lending rates? Only about 85 basis point. So then and there itself, there is a scope for reduction by about full percentage point. So what RBI, as I understand, what RBI, you said, if I were governor, I would have seen that policy rates have been lowered a lot, but the transmission effect has not taken place. So I would focus for now on transmission mechanism and the interest
So
rate
this
lowering.
demonetization will help better transmission?
Of course, when the banks are flushed with funds, banks have no excuse today not to lower the interest rates. And once that process is on, later on, I would expect Reserve Bank to also further lower the deposit, lower the policy
Lending
rates.
rates, yeah, okay.
And
Now-
this is going to create a huge gain. For example, take the case of, you were talking about small people, housing loans, informal sector. Housing loan, if 1 percentage point reduction means 15% addition to the purchasing power. The EMI comes down by 15 percentage points, which means that there is a 15% more
What about
purchasing power added.
Theoretically, I agree with you, but how do you see?
We are not talking about theory, we are talking about the realities. And this is going to happen in the near future.
What about the demand shock in the next 6 months? There are reports in the newspapers that a large number of unorganized sector
Absolutely.
workers,
Absolutely.
daily wages have been laid off, and
Right.
they run into a few million
Absolutely.
workers. They've all gone back to villages, mass migrations.
Yeah.
Now, do you expect a V-shaped recovery post demonetization, or do you expect a kind of saucer-shaped recovery?
I am expecting a V-shaped recovery, but for V-shaped recovery, we are talking about crashing and then coming up very fast.
Very
right?
fast, yeah.
Now, if that is so,
Is that going to happen?
I am absolutely convinced that that is going to happen. It is true that there has been laying off. It is true, not only inconvenience in the informal sector, where cash, in all cash intensive sectors,
Yeah.
there is a big damage done. But this damage is transitory, and as the interest rates go down, which I think is inevitable and invariably that is going to happen, in the near future, not in the long run, I think the economy will get a huge boost. And not only that, please note that even before demonetization, our manufacturing sector has been stuck. It has not been growing. Our capital goods sector, the investment sentiment has not been very strong.
In fact, the employment had actually
Correct.
had negative growth of 65%.
Look at it this way.
industry employment.
Every year we add 12.8 million people to our labor force. How many of them get jobs? So even before demonetization,
Situation
the
was quite
economy
bad,
was
yeah.
slowing down. And
That's why
what
some argue that the timing was wrong.
No,
In a slowing economy, you shouldn't have done this or something.
No. At the same time, please also understand, at the macro level, India is today the fastest growing country in the
Yeah,
world.
relative to, yeah.
Relative to all others. So therefore, I think timing is was very propitious for having taken this historic action.
Tell me, I want to come now to gold. Now,
Yeah, sure.
what the government has attacked is the cash component of the black money stock, which
Right.
is roughly
Right.
6% of the total black money wealth. Now, gold is a big component. Some say it is 45% of GDP. You worked at the RBI, so you would have access to gold research. So tell us, how do you now attack gold?
Yeah.
And then real estate. So these
Very-
two components.
Very valid question. First gold and then real estate. As far as gold is concerned, this was not only a surgical strike on cash held with people, it was also surgical strike on gold in some way because of those five different things. Let me give you some numbers. Every year India today imports about 1,000.
Because gold is an emotional thing. How do you attack household gold?
Yeah, I will come to that. But let's get the broader picture first.
Yeah.
It's very important. This is a very important question that you are asking. Every year we import about 1,000 tons of gold. By information that RBI and others have, 1/3 of gold is purchased by using cash. So there is a cash and gold nexus. But this is ongoing and we are going to stop that. Second thing, how much gold do we have in the system? Nowhere in the world we have so much passion for gold that is there in India. No other country. We have with the RBI something like 575 tons of gold. But in the private hands, we have 25,000 tons of gold. In the temples that in India, there is incalculable amount of gold conservatively placed at about 10,000 tons. So which means that we have about 35,000 tons of gold, and much of it is a dead asset. Our wealth, productive wealth, is kind of stuck in this nearly dead assets.
So you're saying Tirupati should at least put all their gold in the banks?
No, let's look at the value of that. At the current market prices, the value of gold that we have is conservatively can be estimated at 850 billion US dollars or 58 lakh crore rupees.
That's about 45% of GDP.
Yes, 40 to 45% of GDP today, which means that we have to get these gold stocks work for the economy, work for the people. You are very right in
So is
saying
there a
that.
plan?
I think the plan will come up. A plan will come up and it must. We have to work on that because, we have to find a plan. We did introduce, the government did introduce gold bonds, but that has not worked so far because a lot of people have this feeling about emotional attachment. Women in India typically, there are exceptions, they buy gold telling themselves that this is an investment they are making. They're saying that this is an investment they're making. But when times come, when there is an emergency, they don't liquidate that gold.
Yeah.
It remains
Remains.
because there are emotions attached to that. I think we have to find a financial engineering initiative which will, without hurting the emotions and feelings of people, if we can get this gold to work for the economy, it would be giving a new direction to the
So
economy.
that is the need, the
Absolutely.
second big need. And
Absolutely.
coming to real estate,
Right.
a lot of economists say that this demonetization has created a big shock in the real estate sector, which is also linked to construction.
Right.
And there is what economists call a negative wealth effect, which has happened. So it's a bit like, people who hold land, especially in the rural-urban intersection, and who every 5 years sell their land to, for consumption. They feel that their fixed deposit has collapsed by about 20-30%.
Yeah.
Now, what are the negative effects of that?
There is a general belief that the cash component in the real estate, people presume that all builders are like that and they have large amount of cash component, and that is why the negative wealth effect. My information is that it's only in 2 states there is a serious cash problem. One is Delhi, and interestingly the second one is Gujarat. So what is going to happen is that bigger builders do not anymore in Pune and Mumbai, bigger builders do not go for
Cash,
large
transactions.
cash element, but small mom and pop shop kind of people,
Small construction companies in smaller towns.
not even really small guys who have a piece of land and they convert. in Maharashtra we call them Guntha Mantri. Those who have become neo-rich by selling their land, they're called Guntha Mantris. Guntha is a major of land. So, those people are going to be affected. But real estate sector has already been in turmoil, is in serious.
It's not recovered since
Correct.
2008.
Correct. Now, just look at it this way. If you find something, you were talking about gold. Now, find something. If people are given an option as an alternative, real estate as a sector, it will make a lot of difference to gold. The gold coming in and being converted into real estate, some kind of financial engineering. But more importantly, I believe that although we are highest, fastest growing country in the world and all that, please note that this high growth trajectory has not been accompanied by creation of large number of jobs. Now just imagine, this demonetization exercise is going to give a big boost to India's our resources, in the sense that the revenues of the government are going to increase. Somebody has estimated 2.5 lakh crore would be the additional. I don't know, but there would be a huge increase in the government revenues. I would imagine that if this enhancement, this big push in the government revenues, if it is linked up with affordable homes for everybody, another very interesting slogan.
So then
that
the real estate sector could revive also.
Absolutely. Not only the real estate sector will revive. Remember, real estate sector is the one which is the second largest employer in our country.
So you're saying the construction sector can be revived? Yeah.
Absolutely, and that would mean that not only we go to the high growth trajectory, we go to higher growth trajectory with lot more jobs created along, which would make our recovery also healthier than.
Can I ask you one, since we have just about 2 minutes left, this whole talk of digital economy, some feel that it is inherently biased in favor of the urban middle class, or the top maybe 15% of income earners. Since 85% of Indians still earn their wages in cash, and many of them are daily wages. How do you see this demonetization playing out, India moving to a digital economy very rapidly and not giving people enough time to adjust infrastructure, number of ATMs to population ratio in rural India. So how will it affect the poor? One, and along with this, another question, because we have very little time. You are a well-known scholar of Ambedkar. You studied Ambedkar inside out. You've written a books. You've written many books on Ambedkar's economic thought and philosophy.
Right.
How would Ambedkar have seen this demonetization? Because there's some talk in social media that he had supported it, but I think you have rejected that thesis.
Absolutely.
If you can just
and you want me to answer these two big questions in 2 minutes?
if possible.
Okay. I'll be very fast and rapid fire. First of all, let me take the second question first. The question about Dr. Ambedkar. There was a message going around that Dr. Ambedkar, in his famous book, which was his Doctor of Science dissertation, titled "Problem of Rupee: Its Origin and Solution," had said that this is what the message becoming viral, that Dr. Ambedkar, Baba Saheb Ambedkar said that if you want to reduce corruption, you have to keep changing the notes for every 10 years. Absolutely false. That is a great book. It's like a Taj Mahal, but a lot of people have tried to put their own to the Taj Mahal that was constructed. Corruption was not an issue in 1925 when he wrote that book. But he does talk about notes. What he does, that book requires a separate discussion, but he comes close to saying that if you want to make the transaction, more and more people move from barter economy to currency economy, cash economy that we have today, you have to have the denomination of coin should be lower. 20 rupees to 10 rupees took 22 years.
That's
10
common
rupees
sense,
to 5. Exactly.
Yeah.
He said most of the transactions are in Ane Pai. So why don't you have lower level of currency denomination? That is what he said. And the book is about a different subject. There is nothing, no reference.
Anyway, we'll have a separate discussion.
We will have.
Now coming to
digital payments. 10 years back.
Is it loaded against the poor?
Currently, yes. but the situation is changing faster than you can imagine.
So there's an implementation thing there also. Yeah.
There is an inherent bias involved. But 10 years back, could we have imagined that even the maid servants will have a mobile phone? We are very adaptable and we do change. In any case, government has come up with a scheme. I would imagine in future, in the near future, there would be we have already made a beginning that service tax on digital payments would be waived, and there are a slew of measures which are on. They are all steps in the right direction. They will get strengthened as we go along. I would imagine that there should also be a carrot and stick kind of approach. There should be some kind of restrictions or disincentive to cash drawals and incentives for digital payments. That can be introduced over a period of time. And believe me, people will adapt to it much faster than you can imagine. But there would be inherent biases in a complex country like India.
So net, what you're saying is that we need, on the other components of handling black money, which is the digital policy, GST, one hopes that the implementation is smooth, because implementation has been a key problem. Thank you.
There is a key problem here, that in this transitional process, bank officials and the income tax authorities are getting little too much power.
Yeah,
and
of
the
course.
misuse of that is also becoming
That's
visible.
part of the implementation problem also. Thank you very much for talking to us, Dr. Narendra Yadav.
Thank you, Anuj.
That's all we have in this edition of State of the Economy. We'll be back with you next week. Thanks for watching.